Ollie is a character in Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 that has received a lot of confusion in his role in the franchise. Nobody, and I mean nobody, can agree on if Ollie is a toy mascot, a human, the prototype mimicking a voice, or something else entirely. But today, I'm going to try to answer the who, what, where, and why about Ollie. But before we get into that, we should answer the question of who Ollie even is. Near the end of Chapter 3, we get this VHS tape of Harley Sawyer conducting his daily experiments on the prototype. And in this tape, we actually get to hear the prototype talking. But it's not how you would expect. Take a listen.
I possess
A question.
Do you
Feel anything? You stick us.
beat us?
Tear at flesh.
Do you feel it?
The prototype doesn't just have one voice, but he has multiple, all speaking at the same time, and by the end of the tape, the prototype manages to replicate Harley's voice, and when Harley remarks that he learns something new about the prototype every day, the prototype responds by repeating his remark, saying that he learns something new every day about Harley. This tape is really creepy. But what's important about this tape is that the prototype has the ability to mimic any voice. This brings up the possibility that Ollie himself isn't alive anymore, and the prototype is mimicking his voice. We also never see Ollie in person, and only on the phone, which further proves that Ollie is the prototype. The last piece of evidence I have is that at the end of the game, after Catnap dies, and the prototype collects his body, we never hear from Ollie again, which would make sense if the prototype really was Ollie. He has a giant corpse to dispose of, or whatever he wants to do with Catnap's dead body. But now, we approach the evidence that Ollie is a real boy. Poppy seems to really trust Ollie, and as we have seen, it is really difficult to get Poppy to trust you, as even after we killed Huggy and Mommy, she still didn't fully trust us, as evident by her forcing us to go to Playcare, and not just negotiating or asking us to go. And a lot of you guys might think that this scenario of Ollie still being alive is impossible, as he sounds like a 9-year-old. And we know that the game takes place at least in 2005, 10 years after the Hour of Joy. You might think that Ollie should be in his teenage years in order for this scenario to work. But I actually think that it is completely plausible for Ollie to be this young in 2005. Throughout Home Sweet Home, we can see photos of kids hanging on the walls. Most of these photos are just kids around 10 or 11 years old, which might make you think that this disproves that Ollie can still be alive. But if you continue to search around Playcare, you'll find photos of babies. You heard me right. Babies. Ignoring the implications, this means that it is totally plausible for Ollie to still be alive, as he was probably maybe 1 or 2 years old, maybe even a few months old, during the Hour of Joy. But you might be thinking, how could Ollie survive, eat, and learn English if all the humans died before he could even say his first word? Although this is pretty tough to solve, I actually think there is a solution to this dilemma. In one of the VHS tapes in the school, we can hear Mr. Light being delusional again, and talking to Barb, her weapon made of crayons, pencils, and other crude materials. She talks about an encounter with her and Catnap, where she asks Catnap if the kids are in the same place as the employees, which we learn later is deep underground where all the corpses are. And he responds with no when she asks if the children are safe. He says yes. What this means is that there is a place, or maybe even multiple places, where the bigger body monsters actually take care of the kids, feed them, and maybe even teach them English. One thing I would like to mention is that Poppy mentions that the monsters are the corpses of the employees to survive, which might mean that the children were committing cannibalism. But I digress. And heck, there is a chance that Ollie isn't even in the factory in the first place. But we'll talk about that later. Personally, I see the evidence that Ollie is a real boy much more believable than the other options we have available. But now we have to answer the question of if Ollie even wants to help us, because there is still a chance he instead works for the prototype. Throughout the game, Ollie is very helpful to us, providing us with keys around Playcare, and explaining to us most of the things we need to know. So assuming that Ollie is evil and working for the prototype just because he is too nice is a bit much if you ask me. I really just think he wants to help us. Back to the theorizing. We need to address something that I find very interesting. The question of where Ollie is. In the game, we get no evidence of where Ollie is, but I think that using logic, we can come to the conclusion that Ollie is in the factory. I am so confident because of one little thing, the connection. Since we are very deep underground and blocked by many walls, we can safely assume that the connection can't reach the lower levels of the factory. This means that in order for the phone to even work, this has to be a walkie-talkie. Although I don't understand, nor do I care about the specifics of real phones, and might be completely wrong, I think it is safe to assume this is a walkie-talkie. This makes sense, as it is bright and colorful, like most walkie-talkies during the 90s. And since the maximum distance an advanced walkie-talkie can work is a maximum of 2 to 3 miles, we can safely assume that Ollie is in fact in the factory. Although I may be wrong, if I'm right, that means that there is only one question left to solve about Ollie. Has Ollie subscribed to my channel? And press the like button on the video. If you want to do what Ollie physically can't because he's a video game character, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And if you really enjoy my content, support me by joining the channel membership. The money will help me make better videos.